The fact of the matter is that if you look at the level of consumption of petroleum products in Nigeria and the rate of consumption, today it is estimated that we consume close to about 1 million barrels of oil equivalent, close to that figure per day, and most of it we import, as you know. But in a country such as ours, that is a monoproduct economy, paying for the subsidy for that has significant impact on the ability of government to deliver on its mandates or its other mandates around education, healthcare, building road infrastructure and things like that. The subsidy numbers are significant. And for me, the most important thing is that the ordinary person who is supposed to get the benefit of this subsidy, they are really not getting it. People are paying rates 200 naira per litre, 150 naira per litre, and so some people are really cornering the subsidy into their pockets, and so the impact that government policy is supposed to have as far as subsidy is concerned, it's not attaining the desired objective. So why do you want to continue to do that? And from the point of view of sustainability, given the competing resources, given the fact that Nigeria depends on export of oil, and today oil prices have collapsed, the volatility in oil prices and the competing demand for other activities of government, it becomes difficult for government to sustain that level of subsidy. And so I always knew that it was going to come to this conclusion anyway, that this subsidy has to go. Even though it's still been said that it is a partial subsidy, not everything has been removed, but ultimately it is not sustainable, and the Nigerian government just cannot afford it right now. And therefore I honestly support it, because once you have a properly deregulated environment, then you can be talking about investments coming into that sector. People can now come up and set up refineries. We, for example, as a company, we have long taken the decision that is the way to go. By just continuously producing oil and exporting oil doesn't make sense over the long term. We have taken the position that we are going to start with building a 5,000 barrels a day modular refinery, and over the long term, we intend to increase the capacity to between 30 to 50,000 barrels of oil per day, where we can feed the southern part of the country. So we think that the demand is there, the resource is there. So why are we? The biggest issue has been that of pricing. But from a strategic point of view, when you look 3 to 5 years ahead, you know that Nigerian government can just not afford to pay the subsidy that we are paying. It's not sustainable. And we can see the impact in terms of the decay of our healthcare system, the educational system, the infrastructure system, because the government just has not been able to focus on developing those infrastructures as a result of just wasting the money by way of paying subsidies to companies, and it's not achieving the desired impact on the population.
Has it been all bullish in the upstream sector?
Oh, the upstream sector is really, of course, we are going through a cycle, a commodity cycle right now. So it's a very rough time for us in the upstream sector. Right now, you can see that quite a lot of companies earlier in the year had laid off a lot of staff. Projects have been stopped, significant volumes of projects. A significant number of projects have been stopped, running to billions of dollars globally. And so even in Nigeria, companies have laid off quite a number of people. So it's part of the commodity price cycle that we're having to deal with, and the Nigerian government is definitely feeling the impact of that. Our growth forecast economic growth forecast has been reduced. Now we're set to the forecast for growth for us is somewhere less than 3%. For 2016, and from about 3.5% previously. So you can see the overall impact on the Nigerian economy. But as a company, yes, now if you want to do new projects, access to funding has become such a big challenge. The Nigerian banking system is feeling the impact of this volatility in oil price, as it were. So to be able to raise funding to do additional development from the Nigerian banking system has become more challenging right now. Whereas for us, we see opportunities in Nigeria. We see the need for us to be able to produce more oil. But given the current price conditions, it's become impossible The banks have reached their limits, as far as the oil and gas sector is concerned. So they're not able to lend to anybody in the oil and gas sector. At a time that we need to be able to produce more oil, and be able to sell more oil, and to help our country generate more revenue by way of paying royalties and taxes. There's no access to funding to be able to do that. So it's a rather difficult time now, but it's a cycle. We all understand it. We enjoyed the boom, but this is the downtime, and then we just have to ride through the cycle.
So what other funding options are oil companies looking at right now, especially since banks are not lending to domestic oil companies?
Oh, well, you have to begin to look offshore. You have to begin to look offshore. But looking offshore again has some constraints as we speak, because of some fundamental economic policy decisions that external investors are looking for Nigerian government to take. One of those, of course, is the issue of the subsidy payments, which is distorting potentials for investment in the refining space, but I guess that has been partially addressed. The second thing is to operate in this dual foreign exchange rate system. That is becoming essential because the investor that is going to bring money wants to know how he's going to be able to take his money out. So this uncertainty is really creating a problem, notwithstanding the fact that for us, you are going to you invest in dollars, we'll pay you back. You lend to us money, you lend us money in dollars, we pay back in dollars. But the general uncertainty as a result of this inconsistent policy situations really is causing a problem with being able to access credit internationally. So everybody is just waiting to see how that works out. And on top of that, it's again the uncertainty around oil price. So that's going to be a tough period. It's going to be a tough period for us to ride through. There isn't going to be that much of activity, so to speak, in terms of significant investments now in the upstream sector. Even if you see, there'll be in trickle. Companies will essentially be using their capital to do development, but in terms of external lending coming in, it's going to be severely tapered down.
Oil prices continue to fluctuate. But what's your outlook for the rest of the year?
Well, that has been a difficulty for the industry. I was at a conference in Houston last week where the general notion is that it's going to be lower for longer. So we're going to stay within the lower oil price regime for some time. That's an opinion that said somewhere around $50, average of $50 per barrel throughout 2016, which that's going to be subject to certain geopolitical situations. Iran is still in the market producing, Saudi Arabia is still producing heavily, so those geopolitical issues are still in contention. And so those are things that definitely impact the outlook for price. But somehow, I think that the price is just going to remain volatile. I see it somewhere between $45 and $50 per barrel through 2016. So that's what I think.